Today we are making this beautiful A-line dress step-by-step tutorial. The bow is at the back of the dress, and this is how the front of the dress look once you have done making your own dress. To be able to make this dress, you have to purchase my paid pattern paper. When you purchase this pattern paper, you can make 3 different kinds of dresses from this pattern. That is the beautiful part of this pattern. It is affordable, and if you follow my step-by-step how I put the dress together, you will enjoy making these dresses. And I will be displaying the pictures of the dresses that I have made with this pattern. When you purchase the pattern, what you are going to do, you first print this part out. We have 2 square right here. We have 1, we have 2. So the bigger one, you measure 5 centimeter or 2 inch. The smaller one, you take a measurement of 1 inch or 2.5 centimeter. Once the measurement is accurate and it is correct, then you can go ahead and print out all the rest of the pattern. In my previous video, I show how to join all the pattern paper together step by step. Make sure you watch the video on how to join the pattern paper together, and you will love making these dresses. Please support me by purchasing the pattern paper. It is affordable. If you are a beginner or you want to start online shop, this is also a great advantage for you to purchase a paid pattern paper before you will have confidence to be able to make your own pattern paper. If you purchase my pattern paper today, you can make 3 different kinds of dresses. That is a big win for you. I did not make the pattern paper so that you can only make 1 pattern of dresses. I decided to create this pattern so that you can make multiple dresses from this A-line pattern. Thank you for purchasing and thank you for supporting. I appreciate each and every one of you. Like and share this video and comment down below your opinion on the comment section. So let's jump right to this tutorial. First thing that you are going to do, you pick your front pattern paper. So what we are going to do, we are going to place it on our fabric. Before you place it on your fabric, make sure you fold your fabric into 2. So I fold my fabric into 2. When you are placing your pattern paper on your fabric, make sure that the front pattern paper is going to be on fold. So you place it like this. All you have to do, you take your pin, you pin it all around. You take your scissors, you cut it out. The pattern paper already includes 1 centimeter seam allowance. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pin it all around, and I will take my scissors and I will also cut it out. Pattern that you are going to cut out the back pattern. When you are cutting out the back pattern, you are going to place it on fold. We have 3 centimeter zipper seam allowance or buttonhole seam allowance. So it's marked right here. All you have to do, you just fold it inside like this, because we don't really need this 3 centimeter seam allowance. So we are going to place a button loop at the center back of our dressmaking. My fabric is folded into 2 like this, and I will place my pattern paper on my fabric. I'll make sure that I place it on fold. What I'm going to do, I am going to take my pin, I will pin it all around, and I will take my scissors and then cut it out. The next pattern that you are going to cut, you are going to place your bow fabric and cut it out. When you are placing your bow fabric, make sure that you fold your fabric into 2. My fabric is folded into 2, and this is the fold side. I will place my pattern paper like this. I will go ahead and pin it all around, and I will take my scissors and cut it out. The next pattern that I'm going to cut, I am going to cut my front inserted plate. When you are cutting this part of your pattern, make sure that you're cutting 1 piece, not on fold. So I will place it like this, and I will pin it all around. Once I am done pinning, I will take my scissors and cut it out. And for the bow tie, I will place it like this. You're also going to cut 1 piece. I will pin it all around, and I will also take my scissors and cut it out. I have cut out my made fabric and the lining. So this is how it is. This is my made fabric back and front, and also my lining back and front, my bow fabric, my bow tie, and the inserted plate. So what we are going to do, we are going to put the dress together. First thing that you have to do, you pick your back dress. So this is the back of my dress, and you can see it has a crease at the center of the dress. So what you are going to do, you place your measuring tape like this at the neckline. You are going to take a measurement of 12 centimeter or 4.75 inch. It's right here. Once you take that measurement, what you are going to do, you take your scissors, you cut it down to that 12 centimeter or 4.75 inch. So I will turn my fabric and I will cut it down. Once you cut it down, make sure to also repeat the same process with your lining. I have cut out the center back of my lining. This is how it looks. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to put both front fabric together. This is the front of my back dress. This is the front of my lining. I will put them together like this. Once you have done doing that, the next thing that you are going to pin around the both armhole and neckline. Once you have done pinning, take it to your sewing machine, stitch around the both armhole and neckline. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. Once you have done stitching, snip around the both armhole and neckline. The next thing that you have to do, you take your front dress. So this is my front dress, and I've also put the both front fabric together. This is how it is. Once you have done doing that, take your dress to your sewing machine, stitch around the both armhole and neckline. Do not stitch the shoulder yet. Once you have done stitching the neckline and the both armhole, take your scissors, snip around the both armhole and neckline. Once you have done doing that, turn it inside out, take it to an ironing board and give it a good press. The next thing that you have to do, you pick your bow fabric. This is the front of my bow fabric and this is the back. And I've also taken my fabric to my ironing board and iron interfacing at the back of my fabric. So what you are going to do, you put them together like this. Make sure to leave a gap so that you can be able to turn it inside out. You go ahead and stitch from here to here, back stitch at the beginning, back stitch at the end. Go ahead and stitch from here to here, back stitch at the beginning, back stitch at the end. I will show you how to stitch the rest of the bow fabric together. And you take your bow tie, fold it into two and run a straight stitch all the way down, turn it inside out and give it a good press. Once you have done that, this is my inserted pleat, the way we are going to stitch this fabric, because we are going to attach it on our bow. So what you are going to do, you fold it into two like this so that you have a crease in between the fabric. Once you have done doing that, the next thing that we are going to take a measurement from this center of the fabric. I will place my measuring tape like this. I'm going to measure down 4 centimeters. If you're using inches, you can measure 1.5 inch or 1.75 inch. Once you have done taking the measurement, the next thing that you have to do, you place your ruler like this. You can see the way I place my ruler. You just connect it down and then you come down to this other side. You repeat the same thing. Place your ruler like this and you connect it down. Once you have done that, what you are going to do, you take your scissors, you cut it out. I have cut it out. This is how it looks once you have done that. The next thing that you have to do, you pick your ruler, place it like this. You want this side to be curved and you want it to be point because, like I said before, we are going to attach it on our bow fabric. And you connect it down like this. You come down to this other side, you repeat the same thing. Pick your ruler, place it a diagonal way and you connect it down. Once you have done that, you can take your scissors and cut it out, or when you are stitching, just stitch along the line like this and you stitch along this other line like this. So go ahead and stitch them together. Once you have done stitching, turn it inside out, take it to an ironing board and give it a good press. I have stitched around the both armhole and the neckline. This is how it is, and I turn it inside out, give it a good press. This is how it is right now. And I've also stitched my bow tie together and make sure that the seam is in between the fabric. And I've also stitched this together. You can see how it is. I forgot to mention that when you are stitching, you have to leave a gap at the center of the fabric, because if you don't leave a gap, you will not be able to turn it inside out. So this is my gap right here that I use to turn the fabric inside out. And I've also stitched my bow fabric. I haven't done stitching it yet. And this is my gap opening right here, and this is the back of my dress, and this is how it is. I have not also stitched the center back. You can see that I trim a little bit out from the seam allowance all around the neckline and the armhole. What we are going to do, we are going to finish stitching our bow fabric. So what you are going to do, you open the seam like this, you put them together. This is the center crease. You put them together like this, and you take it to your sewing machine, you stitch it all the way down. You repeat the same thing on this other side. Open the seam, put them together, and give it a straight stitch all the way down. Once you have done stitching, turn it inside out, take it to an ironing board and give it a good press. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to stitch the center back of our dress. To do that, you have to cut a button loop. The width of my button loop is about 2.5 centimeter or 1 inch. It doesn't really matter the length. What you are going to do, take it to your sewing machine and run a straight stitch all the way down. Once you have done stitching, the next thing that you have to do, you fold the fabric into two like this. This is the loop. You are going to push the loop inside your dress. The raw edges will be facing out. Once you have done that, the next thing that you have to do, just take it to your sewing machine and run a straight stitch all the way down. Once you have done stitching, trim a little bit out from the seam allowance of the button loop. I have stitched my bow fabric. This is how it is. I turn it inside, I'll give it a good press, and I fold it into two like this so that I have a center crease on the fabric. And I've also stitched the center back of my back dress. This is how it is. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to put our front fabric inside the back fabric. To do that, what you are going to do, you open your back fabric like this, and I will pick my front fabric, and I'm going to take my pin like this. You can see that both main fabric will be facing each other. Lining will then be facing each other. What you are going to do, you place your pin on the shoulder of the fabric. You open it like this. You pass it through the back shoulder like this. Remove your pin. What you are going to do, you just go ahead and fix the shoulder properly. Once you have done fixing, take your pin and pin it in place. I have pinned it in place. This is how it is. The next thing that you have to do, you repeat the same process on the other shoulder. Remove your pin and fix the shoulder properly. Once you have done fixing, take it to your sewing machine and top stitch with your seam allowance. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. I have top stitched the shoulder seam together, and I trim a little bit out from my seam allowance. What I'm going to do, I will just pull my dress out like this. You can see how that is. And then you pull the other side out. See how that is. What I'm going to do, I will take it to my ironing board and give it a good press. I have given it a good press. This is how it is. Once you have done that, the next thing that we have to do, we are going to put both side seam of our dress together. Pick them like this, lining facing each other, main fabric facing each other. What you are going to do, take it to your sewing machine and run a straight stitch. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. Stitch it all the way down, and then you come down to this other side. You repeat the same thing. Put them together like this. Stitch it all the way down. Once you have done stitching, take it to your overlocker, overlock the raw edges, or use zigzag to overlock the raw edges. I have stitched the both side seam of my dress. This is how it is. I turn it inside out, give it a good press. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to hem our dress. Fold inside 1 centimeter, fold it again 1.5 centimeter, and stop stitch around, and also repeat the same thing with your lining. Once you have done doing that, we can now stitch our bow on the dress. I have hemmed my dress and the lining. This is how it looks once you have done hemming your dress and the lining. This is how it is. The next thing for you to do is to stitch your bow on the dress. Before you stitch your bow on the dress, what you are going to do, fold your bow into 2 so that you have a crease in between the fabric. What we are going to do, we are going to thread our needle and use hand stitch to stitch the bow. Make sure to prepare your needle ready. So I have already done that. I will just go ahead and start passing my needle through like this, back and forth, back and forth. I have used hand stitch to stitch my bow together. This is how it is. The next thing for you to do is to pick this other one. You're going to also use hand stitch to stitch it together. So you just place your needle like this, just the same way we stitch our bow. I have also used hand stitch to stitch it together. This is how it is. The next thing that we have to do, we place it in between like this. You can see the way I place it in between, and you just use your thread and needle to stitch it all over again like this. I have stitched them together. This is how it is right now. Once you have done doing that, the next thing that you have to do, you take your bow tie, place it around the bow like this. What you are going to do, you are going to take it to your sewing machine and top stitch. I have turned it inside out. This is how it is once you have done that. The next thing for you to do is to place it at the back of your dress. This is the center crease of our back of our dress. So I will move down a little bit from the center back. So I'll move down like this and I will place it like this at the center back of my dressmaking. What you are going to do, you take your pin, you just use your pin to secure the bow on your dress. When you are securing the bow on your dress, make sure that you're picking only the made fabric, not the lining, only the made fabric. So I will place my hand inside like this. I will secure the bow on the dress and I will come down to this other side. I will repeat the same thing and I will place my hand inside the dress and I will secure my bow on the dress. When I'm going to stitch, I'm going to do the same thing. I will also open my dress and I will place it on my sewing machine and I will stitch it on just on the made fabric. And I will also come down to this other side. I will stitch it just on the made fabric, not on the lining. Once you have done with that, your dress finally ready. I will show you the final look of my dressmaking once I am done stitching. This is the final look of my dress. It's beautiful step-by-step tutorial. You can see how that it really turned out really cute. Thank you all so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye.